Good morning, third grade. I hope you guys are having a great day. So we are starting on our next chapter in Dognapped Cat, chapter 9, Stakeout. See, there's Samson up there. There he is. Okay. All right. Are you ready? See what happens in this chapter. Mark snapped his casebook closed and sat up. He swung his feet down from the desk and faced the other two. "I don't like to admit it," he said, "but I'm stumped. We've interviewed every person in town who's lost a dog since the dog napping started. And what do we have to show for it? Zero. Zilch. Nada. At least we know the guys operate the same way each time," Maria Dolores said. "They case the place some way, then they snatch the dog at night. They can't go on without running into some kind of trouble." "Yeah," Corey chimed in. "Baroka K is a small town. Somebody's bound to see them sooner or later." Mark got up and paced back and forth across the loft. He stopped and stared out the window. "It's too early in the morning for a case like this." Corey yawned and stretched. "Too bad we can't run a stakeout ourselves on this one." Mark blinked. "Stakeout?" He whipped around and stared at Corey. "A stakeout!" Corey sat up. "What'd I do? What'd I say?" "That's it," Mark exclaimed. "We'll stake out a dog. One that the dognappers wouldn't be able to resist. Then we'll grab them in the act of snatching a dog." Maria Dolores thought a minute. "Uh-huh," she finally said. "It might just work. But where are we going to get a dog? I don't have a dog. You don't have a dog." Both turned and stared at Corey. "Oh, no," he said hastily, backing toward the ladder. "Not Cinnamon." "It's only for one night," Maria pleaded. "And just think how the headlines will read. 'Crime Busters Crack Crooks.' How's that for starters?" "Aunt Caroline crushes Corey is more likely," Corey said. "No way! Besides, the Los Opso is beside her day and night." "Corey, isn't there any way you could borrow Cinnamon?" Mark pleaded. "Just for a few hours?" Corey shrugged. "Well, come on, Corey, help out here," Maria Dolores said. "We're running out of options." "Well, Aunt Caroline is having her party tonight, and she asked me to—" Corey flinched. "To sit for the dog." Mark pounded on his back. "That's it," he said. "That's it, Corey." Corey hiccuped nervously. "All you have to do is bring Cinnamon over for a few hours," said Mark. "We'll set up the stakeout right here and rig it up so that not even a weasel could get in or out." "We'll get them this time for sure," said Maria Dolores. "How?" Corey asked simply. "Come on, we'll plan it out." Mark pulled out a large used sheet of poster paper and half a ruler. Carefully he sketched his house, the garage, and the stretch of lawn in between. "We'll tie her out here," he said, jabbing at the spot midway between the house and the garage. "We'll station Corey in the bushes here, just back of the dog." He thought a minute. "And Maria Dolores, I'll like you to take the spot inside the screened porch, and I'll be here in the garage." What about your folks? Corey asked. They always go to your aunt's parties, Mark said. So do your folks. We'll ask if you can sleep over here. Won't they be mad? Why should they? We're home, aren't we? What could go wrong? Corey sighed. Well, what makes you think the dog nappers will even come by? Maria Dolores asked. Mark thought a moment. I don't suppose we could put up posters around town. Advertise? Corey glared at Mark. Not a chance. Well, then we'll try something else if they don't show up, Mark said. Cheer up, Corey. Everything's going to be fine. So how are we going to stop them from taking Cinnamon? Corey asked. Mark smiled. We're going to make a citizen's arrest. Citizen's arrest? Us? But we're just kids, Maria Dolores said. Right, but we won't sound like kids. At least one of us won't. Maria Dolores remembered the voice changer you used in the skit you did last April. Didn't you get it from Dynamic Electronics? Yeah, well, yes. Uncle Raymond lent it to me. Can you get it again in a hurry? Mark asked. If he still has it, Maria Dolores replied. I'll check. He's got some other neat stuff, too. Okay, see what you can find. Mark turned to Corey. Remember the old siren you've got in your basement? Think your folks will let us borrow it? Corey nodded. Sure. Hey, where do we put all this stuff when we get it? Maria Dolores asked, pausing on her way out of the door. On a desk in the loft, Mark said as he stepped out off the ladders. Come on, Corey, let's go. By late afternoon, everything had been gathered and stored in the loft, including an extra gizmo Maria had not been able to resist. The stack of equipment consisted of a parabolic mic complete with earphones, 2 sets of speakers and another microphone, a mobile siren, and 2 sets of handcuffs that Maria Dolores had bartered for from a kid down the street. These handcuffs cost me 5 baseball cards and a torn baseball, Maria Dolores said, snapping the cuffs on her wrists. Best trade I ever made. No key, though. Hey! Corey stared toward her. Maria Dolores grinned and turned her hands down. The cuffs slid off and hit the ground. Cuffs for grown-ups, right? Corey laughed. Guess kids' cuffs wouldn't work. Sorry. The work was on the bottom. I missed it. Sorry. So let's read that sentence again, okay? Corey laughed. Guess kids' cuffs wouldn't work. Mark picked up the parabolic mic. Your uncle really let you have this? You know I don't take things without permission, Maria Dolores replied. But he did tell me exactly what would happen to me if I didn't return it in the same condition it is now. So be careful. Mark put the mic down gently and looked through the rest of the stack. Where's the voice changer? Didn't you get it? Well, yes. Maria Dolores hesitated. I got it. Mark looked at her puzzled. It came with Julio attached. Julio? Mark thought a moment. Isn't that your cousin? Yeah, Corey interrupted. The one who pasted the stamps from my entire collection all over his suitcase. No way. He was only 6 when he did that, Maria Dolores said. Aunt Connie had just come back from Europe, and he wanted his suitcase to look just like hers. He's much older now. How old? Asked Mark. 7, Maria replied. Uncle Raymond told him he could help us. Mark sighed. Maybe it'll be okay. After thinking hard about the problem of Julio, Mark finally made up his mind. That evening he gave Julio a script and had Maria Dolores coach him using the voice changer. Satisfied that even Julio's voice could sound commanding with the proper equipment, Mark stationed him in the loft window with a mic and the voice changer. Now, if you see anybody, and I mean anybody, come near that dog, you follow the script. Do you hear me, Julio? Julio nodded, pulling up his chair and clutching the mic stand with both hands. Mark stared toward the ladder. He stopped. Don't forget the voice changer. Julio nodded again. I won't, Mark, I promise. Mark swung himself onto the ladder halfway down, and a thought occurred to him. He scrambled back up and raised his head above the level of the loft. And Julio? Julio jumped. What? Don't you move 1 inch, Mark warned. I don't want to see you or hear you or even smell you. Okay. Julio looked at hooked his legs around the chair and sat up tensely. Mark sighed and climbed down the ladder. By 7 o'clock, the bikes had been concealed in the garage. Cinnamon had been staked out, and Maria Dolores and Corey had manned their stations. Mark clipped on the earphones. He aimed the mic at Cinnamon. It picked up every jingle of her jeweled dog tag and relayed every sniffle and woof. To check the range of the mic, he aimed it at the bushes. He grinned as he picked up a sharp crackling sound. He waited a minute. The crackling was followed by a chewing sound. Corey was eating candy. Hope it isn't chocolate, he thought. Can't have him going allergic on us. He swept the mic around to cover the screened porch. For a moment he was puzzled by what he heard. Then he realized Maria Dolores was swinging on the porch swing. It squeaked gently at the swaying back and forth, back and forth. Satisfied, he clicked off the mic. He stepped outside to recheck the positions of the 4 speakers. One had been stationed at each corner of the garage. 2 had been attached to the back of the porch. Then he climbed the ladder to the loft. It took a bit of persuading to get the microphone away from Julio. I'll give it back, Julio, Mark said. I just want to check the speakers. Julio released his death grip on the mic and sat back just enough to let Mark reach it. Mark leaned over and whispered softly down on the lawn. Cinnamon broke into hysterical barking. Corey's head shot up over the concealing bushes and with a startled expression on his face. Even Maria Dolores pressed her nose to the screen door. Just checking, guys, Mark whispered hastily, and the other crime busters gave him all right signs. They disappeared back to their stations. Mark squeezed back past Julio. You keep your eye on that window, Mark warned, and don't be moving around up here. You'll attract attention. Okay. Julio pushed his glasses back up on his nose. He grabbed the mic and pulled it out of Mark's reach. For one brief moment, Mark thought about calling Julio's mother and asking her to take him home. But then Maria Dolores would hear from Uncle Raymond, and they'd lose the voice changer too. He shrugged. It was too late to change things now. He climbed back down the ladder and took up his position by the open garage door. Time ticked by slowly. Moonlight slivered the yard. Spotlighting the silky-haired Cinnamon on the sweep of bare grass. For over an hour she tugged nervously at the leash. Finally she gave up and settled down to nap. Mark checked the loft window but didn't see any movement from Julio's station. Satisfied, he relaxed and made himself comfortable. Lights went off in the neighborhood one by one. Only the golden glow of the streetlight was left to compete with the moonlight. Even Mark had begun to yawn when Cinnamon sat up. Mark straightened and followed her gaze. For a moment he thought the dog was simply spooking at nothing. Then moonlight glistened off of a bright chrome area, and he saw it. The green van was cruising with its lights off. Its dark color blended in with the hedge on the other side of the street. Mark aimed the mic toward the open window of the van. A thin, high-pitched voice came through the speakers so clearly that Mark winced. She said something about a sitter this afternoon. The dog must be around here somewhere. Hey, Mick, isn't that the dog? Looks like her, but who'd leave a dog like that tied out, especially when they're gone? The other voice was lower, gruffer. Maybe the kid forgot to take her in, was the answer. She's a beaut, isn't she? Look at that coat, and the way she holds her head. Yeah, she's worth every inch of that lawn we mowed 3 times before it passed inspection. It's a good thing you heard the old lady ask the kid to sit for the dog. A lawn care service, Mark thought. He took a deep breath and almost forgot to let it out. So that's it. They mow the lawns in case the place for dogs to sell. He shifted the mic toward the screen door. It picked up Maria Dolores's steady breathing. She was ready and waiting. Good, Mark thought. He swung the mic toward the bushes to check on Corey. Corey's breath sounded like he was coming up in ragged gasps. Mark frowned. Should have frisked Corey for that chocolate before he went to his hiding place. Too late. Mark tapped on the ladder beside him to alert Julio. Then he turned his attention back to the men. The van had stopped, but the motor was still running. Both men got out and looked up and down the street. Then the taller one ran lightly across the grass. The other got back into the van and eased it along the street until it was directly across from Cinnamon. Mark held his breath, waiting for Julio to start the script. Nothing happened. The man had reached Cinnamon and was unsnapping the leash. Where was Julio? What had happened to the siren? The man picked up the unresisting dog. Mark scrambled up the ladder. Julio lay face down on the desk, snoring lightly. Julio! Mark hissed at him from between gritted teeth. The boy jumped and blinked at him. Mark gestured wildly. Julio looked out at the yard. Mark scrambled the rest of the way to the window and pointed. The tall man was headed back to the van, holding in his hand Cinnamon with his hand over her muzzle. Julio grabbed the mic instead of the voice changer. He threw open the channels to all 4 speakers. Sands up! He stuttered in his own voice. We've got you surrounded! On cue, Maria Dolores and Corey switched on their flashlights. Mark reached over Julio and belatedly hit the siren switch. Unfortunately, the man on the lawn was nowhere near the center of the trap. Mark snatched the voice changer from the desk. He pushed the button to the speakers nearest the fleeting man and yelled into the changer, "Drop that dog!" The amplified, spooky, vibrating voice boomed right in the man's ear. Mark caught a glimpse of the white face just before the man dropped the dog. Then the man covered the last few steps to the van door in a flying leap. The van accelerated and skidded around the corner. Cinnamon fled across the street into a vacant lot, yelping. By the time Mark got there, Corey was wheezing. I told you, he gasped, gulps of air. I told you. Settle down, Corey, Mark said, helping his friend back into the garage. We'll get her, I promise. It took Maria Dolores and Mark the better part of an hour to coax Cinnamon out of the tangle of briars and dead grass in the lot. Panting, they carried her across to Corey. Then they tried to pull out some of the burrs that had caught in her long hair. Corey was still sitting in the open doorway of the garage. He watched them without moving. Maria Dolores looked at Mark blankly. "What went wrong?" she asked. "What happened to Julio?" "He went to sleep on us," Mark said between gritted teeth. "Just wait till I get my hands on him. Where is he anyway?" Corey took one look at Cinnamon's coat and shuddered. "Julio said to tell you he doesn't want to play this game anymore," Corey said. "He took his voice changer and went home." And that is the end. Uh-oh, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think Corey will get in trouble? Do you think all three kids are going to get in trouble for using Cinnamon as bait without asking? It could be bad. You'll have to wait until tomorrow to find out what happens. All right? Bye-bye, guys. See ya.